I can speak up at least a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll turn the volume up. I can put my earphones in if that helps. But
Yeah.
good. How are you guys? It's been a while.
We're doing good.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it must have been pre-pandemic probably last time, was it?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Came up Boston way, and yeah, that was a little while. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are on the other side.
Yeah. And a lot has happened since then, hasn't it?
It has. It has. It's kind of like yesterday and like the longest time ever. Everything's changed and nothing's changed. It feels a bit weird, really.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and I think during the lockdown, it was nice. All the community came together and we kind of all looked after each other, and people played Walking Dead. But that whole kind of recruitment drive that I think we were on in 2019, Pathfinder shows, real momentum, people picking up Kings of War. I think that's taken a bit of a kind of, just slowed off in the last 12 months, I think, the shows. So, certainly that's our objective for next year, is just to get people, we got people back gaming, but then forgot to say, and then bring your mates along too.
Yeah.
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 And so I think that's certainly our objective for the coming 12 months, is just get growing again, get being bigger.
And you had quite the jump on that with the Terrain Crate 3 release.
Yeah, it was good fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I think it's a great retail product. That I think it was a little bit difficult to kickstart because it's just a straight value Kickstarter. There's no incentive other than half price. Now, half price is pretty good. It's a sweet deal, but you've got to be thinking that this is a problem you want solving now. Whereas once we've got it out at retail, whenever you want to solve it, there's a solution. So, when someone's building a new gaming table or a new games room, there'll be this lovely range of nice plastics.
For sure. And because Rick's jumping right into the hard-hitting
I was going to say, we're getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we?
Should we actually introduce the show a little bit? I know we usually do a cold open anyway. But
yeah, exactly. I definitely think we should do that.
All right.
Definitely start at the beginning.
Yeah, so we'll pick right up from there then. So you are listening to Deadzone the podcast. I've been Brian.
I'm Rick.
And I'm Ronnie.
With us today is Ronnie.
Sharks! I came in too early. Look at that. I jumped the gun.
Welcome to the Deadzone podcast. Deadzone is the sci-fi tabletop.
We'll fix it in post, as we always say, and then I never do. But
don't worry about it. It's the usual chaos you get with me.
It's all good. But great seeing you. It's like we said at the beginning of the show. It's been a little bit since we've been in touch, and but a lot of great things have been going on at Mantic. And as we were just talking about the Terrain Crate Kickstarter project, which was pretty successful. It seems like you guys hit quite a few stretch goals as well.
Yeah, no, we're very pleased with it. It's one of those things that it's not a natural Kickstarter product because, there's not the exclusivity that comes with it and getting 2 years worth of releases early and all in one box. What this was about is, you're going to save 50, 60, 70% off retail. We need some help with the tooling. It's good to have an initial order to get us over the line. But you have to be wanting to change your gaming table at the same time as we're asking for you to, as we're asking for help with tooling. So
right.
A few things need to interact. I think it will be a great retail product because people are just going to see it there, and when they want to do their gaming table, we were just finalising the range. It's just going to be a great alternative that's going to look a bit more interesting than your green railway trees that most people are still gaming on.
Yeah.
I got some
I think
holiday
when people
ones.
get it in their hands and physically start seeing it and showing it off, I think they'll realise how cool it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head there, where it is a great product for retail. Like, this is a great line for Mantic. Like, Terrain Crate is one that we see in a lot of game stores, even if they're not miniature based ones.
Yep.
The D&D folks are always looking for this kind of stuff. Starfinder is also a nice sci-fi based RPG that are looking for terrain bits as well. So I think these are great.
There's some rules. It's going to work for 40k. It's going to work for Infinity, Firefight, Deadzone. I think anything sci-fi, fantasy, futuristic, the ruins and the trees work. I think anything fantasy-wise, particularly higher fantasy. I think if you're fighting on a green board and you've got, grey buildings and Viking kind of buildings, then green trees, kind of work. The rolling hills of Kent or whatever you put them in as. But I think when you're playing on a molten lava board or a kind of in the void, and you're looking for something a little bit more out there, or you're looking for something a bit more themed, a Trident Realms board or a winter board, you can really take it to some kind of high fantasy, and I think there's going to be a whole load of modelling opportunities that people will start when they get their hands on it, going, I can do this with it, I can do that with it,
Absolutely.
And I think, probably in hindsight, we talked too much about the huge 6-inch trees and not enough about the fact that the normal ones are about 2.5, 3 inches. You can just get bags of those and you'll be just covering your gaming table with very pretty looking, interesting looking, flora and fauna. So I think there's modelability. You can put on the Kings of War bases, Infinity board where scenery is really important. It really is absolutely line of sight stuff that you can use through to others where you just want the template and it's just highlighted that that's a 2-inch wood or a 6-inch wood or whatever it is. So it covers a lot of bases for a lot of people for a lot of different scenarios, I think.
Yeah, covers bases. I see what you did there. and the neoprene stuff that you're putting out with it, like the square ones for the buildings, but also the, like you're saying, the forest and the different shapes and stuff to really kind of help draw where the edge of things are. I think those are really neat. They're really, it makes them very transportable and easy to throw down and move about while still looking nice and clean.
It was one of those things that, for me, the gaming table is almost as important as the armies. It's not, but it kind of is. It's certainly up there. It's just in third place behind the two armies. Obviously, my army first place, their army second place.
Obviously.
And during lockdown, one of my hobby projects, I don't know if people remember it, but I did all the terrain that we have here. We had some of those secret weapon tiles that had been painted, but they weren't very good. And I reflocked them and refilled up the rivers with, water resin. And then I did all the woods. We've got a load of MDF woods with scatter on, so I scattered them still up the same. I ended up gluing the trees in because the trees kept falling over from the beast bases. And when Rob and Matt and I and Kyle set up our big battle, it looked brilliant. It was one of the best looking battlefields I've ever seen. It was gorgeous. It was 12 foot by 4 foot. We weren't too far apart, so I knew we'd be playing on the normal 4, the 264s, edges, some rivers, but not too much. But when we started playing, the fact that you couldn't take the trees out and the base was hard, and we're playing big battles, there's a lot of figures on, it just became inconvenient. It was all about aesthetics and not quite enough about
function.
Function, yeah, correct. And so I realised, what you wanted underneath those woods was a template cut to exactly that size. Take the wood off, but are they in the woods, are they not in the woods, was crystal clear. And then, so you've got the beautiful aesthetics, and you've also got the mechanics of the gameplay. And I think most people that are playing games probably lean more towards the aesthetics, towards the gameplay than they do to the aesthetics. So actually, what the ruins do, for example, is you can put them on the templates, on the corners, and they mark out exactly where the building starts and ends. But if you want, you can get rid of the templates and just put the corner pieces in, and it does the same job. Here's a big corner piece, 90 degrees away from that. Okay, there's the edges. You can draw lines between them, because often it's the back side of a building. It's not the front angle where there is two big walls.
Right.
It's where does it end? Is it between the pieces you've got, or is it a square building? And so the template does it. So what we're trying to address with all those is, it looks very pretty, but it's very, very functional. It's easy to transport. It's the trees are the right size exactly for Kings of War. So it's the type of terrain you can just drop down, get playing on. Whether you put the trees on them or not, you might have some trees or whatever else. So function was really paramount in in what they required.
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually kind of ran into some of that at the Michigan GT, where we had a bunch of kind of ruined half buildings, where you only have half the building like open on one side, and it was like, well, we want to treat them as buildings you can enter for your firefight tournament. And it's like, okay, where do we draw the borders? How big is this building? What's its footprint like? So, yeah, I think it's a great line.
Perfect. So you can either just template that, put your building on the corner and say, it's clearly a building. This is the bit that's the building. That's the wall. Or you can put the ruins on the back and the other corners, and then suddenly you've got the edges of a building. With or without the template, you'll still be able to draw lines between your pieces, because it fills in the gaps, because we've done a load of corner pieces. So you can go hugely functional, or you can go aesthetically functional. And I just think, just taking away the arguments, something that Kings of War and Firefight have always done in the game set, in the rule sets. We've clarified rule sets to be slick and fun, not an argument about the rule book. And we're trying to do the same even for some of the other games, because I just think we're addressing a problem.
I have one last question on the terrain crate stuff. So you guys have like ruined alien scenery, and we're obviously very into the Warpath universe. So we were curious, are those ruins aligned to a specific faction within that universe? Or was there any kind of that planning in place?
Okay, so the ruins are more. So there's two sets. There's Deadzone style ruins. So what they've done is we've taken our original Deadzone table furniture, such as the BlackJackLegacy range. And done terrain that is absolutely aesthetically the same as that. So, those cross girders. We've taken one that's got cross girders and they've just been blown apart.
You can see the little window frames and stuff like that.
Correct. So you can actually marry up some of those. You can put them on the corners, but aesthetically it'll all look similar. We actually did a set that were, kind of Gothic-y style ruins.
Sure.
For whatever reason that we thought might be appropriate, but there's quite a lot of Gothic terrain out there that it has the walls and the big sections, but not the backscatter. And I just thought, well, that's kind of crazy that they don't do that, so we'll just do it for them, and then people will buy it. So, so that one is a future Gothic range to be announced by Mantic for our future trade, but it could be some many years from now.
Sure.
Okay.
But in the interim, there may be a demand for it. Who knows? And then the other sci-fi stuff, which is the Xenos, is a kind of walls. The boring bit was undamaged walls and corner pieces,
sure,
like we have in the fantasy range. Because actually, just having a couple of barricades walls that are of good size, are quite good fun. They give people things to run to defend. And so we just thought it was good generic scenery.
Mm-hmm.
And then we put a comms tower, like a pyramid. And then we put a portal, because actually, and a gun emplacement.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought they were quite good fun because they then span sci-fi dungeon crawlers.
Mm-hmm.
They're useful for war games tables because it feels war gamey. It's like the type of thing where the tower's not ruined, but it's not my army, it's not yours. It's very obviously scatter terrain that kind of does a job, or it can go on top of buildings or whatever else. So if it's to be a Mantic faction, it's yet to be decided which firefight faction it is. But at the moment, it's more just kind of otherworld, very obviously sci-fi, cool, painted up, have some fun with it, gaming table scenery.
And who knows, maybe it could be, even in a more ancient, like Asterian space, the people that originally put the plague, out there kind of thing. So, space is big.
It means mostly to Asterians, and as we know, there was races before the Asterians, mm-hmm. So there is that story angle. But we didn't want to pigeonhole that like this is Asterian terrain.
For sure, yeah.
Obviously, going to use it 40k Zeldar terrain. We didn't want to put it there because it wasn't. It's war games terrain.
Mm-hmm.
It's to go on your war games table.
Yeah.
It's to go around your buildings and to give you something that's just a bit interesting and unique.
And then players can really kind of theme it to that end.
Yeah, if you want to paint it in, and it's definitely not human. It doesn't have. I'm a human, but it just doesn't have that kind of vibe. That the Deadzone stuff has a human vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely feels a bit more otherworld Xenos like.
Yeah, very cool.
Hey, I'm Chopper.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Rob.
From Mobile Armor Radio.
And you are listening to Deadzone, the podcast with Rick and Brian in the morning.
Never heard of it.
I don't even know who those guys are.
So, as we said at the beginning of the show, like, Mantic has done a whole lot, especially since we've seen you, but even just this last year, especially in the Warpath universe, we've got a big... launching of firefights. We had the Magnetar summer campaign, which was a really excellent fun time. We actually did a tournament to kind of end cap the event for us.
Yeah, thank you for watching you guys. It was good. There's been a lot of activity. We like that.
Yeah, and we're always chomping at the bit for more evolution of the universe as it goes. So that's been really cool. Speaking of events and everything, so Adepticon is right around the corner, it seems. What's kind of Mantic's plans for that? Obviously, we kind of know more of the events, but like the game events. But what's kind of Mantic from the UK? Were you guys going to be coming over? Were we going to see a couple of you?
Yeah, definitely. So Marty's definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try and be there, but Adepticon always falls between my birthday and my wife's birthday. So
that will do it.
A challenge. You've just got to pick your timings to mention that you might be in America for her birthday, and that can be a little bit dangerous. Mine's definitely going to be there. I'm going to try and be there. Probably will squeeze in a few days. I think the big thing, Jan, Feb, March, is all about recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've had a great time looking after what we've got. I think Armada was a big thing for the Kings of War community. I think doing Deadzone again re-sparked everybody's Deadzone excitement, and they all realised what a fantastic game it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the natural follow-on was Firefight, because if you've been playing a load of Deadzone, you've probably got a couple of factions, you've got more figures than you need. So we've done a really slick game there. The challenge has been almost getting enough people for each of the games, because, we've now got 4 games out there that are current. I think we've got Vanguard, but I think that's, towards the end of its kind of current vibe. But Kings of War's got a brand new big red book, even had a green book for the lockdown. Armada, brand new. Deadzone 3, Firefight 2, all slick, all playable. And we're always like, there's too many toys. What can we talk about? And
it's a tricky problem to have, right?
Yeah, they stop playing Kings of War and start playing Firefight. Well, that's kind of good. They're playing a different game, but we're not getting any bigger.
Yeah.
You know, we need to do is get bigger. And so it's been great because we've got people going back and start to run events as you guys have been doing. The demos have started again. But we've also realised that, you know, by putting resin in our 2-player sets, it's nice to have a couple of figures. But then all of a sudden, you know, the present prices is going up, and then you're putting the retail price up, and your starter set is $120, which isn't very starter. So, you know, what we've got coming out, for example, for Kings of War in January, are ambush sets.
Nice.
A couple of sprues, a couple of figures, and you're playing for, you know, $50. $40, I think, 30 or 40 or 50. So, but you're going to get 3 units for each army. You can download the rules, come with a little rules pack. The stats are obviously on the website. And that's not too intimidating.
No.
And it's a bit like Deadzone. Why is it very popular? Because people can buy a pack, faction starter, 6 or 7 figures, you're up and running.
Yep.
And so what we're going to be doing in Jan, Feb, March, all the way into Adepticon is a huge kind of recruitment drive about getting people started, giving a games a try. And I think I just got an email today from someone saying, bought Firefight back in, you know, March, never quite got round to it. Been 40-game players all our lives. Just played it this weekend with my 3 mates. Oh my God, what a clean rule set. How much fun this is. We just can't get enough of it. Blah, blah, blah. And I think we just need more of that. We just need to get a whole lot of people trying what we're doing, having a go at it. Because I think when they do, they'll go, this is what I want to do this year.
Yeah.
So we've got cool plans for Armada. That's coming to the app in March. So people are going to be able to access, you know, the rules for the free for the first time, some taster ships.
Yeah.
That's going to be cool. And then once we've got people excited and recruiting, we're going to turn the heat up with new armies, a very cool sci-fi book in the late summer that's going to blow your minds. Yeah, just loads and loads of very cool things building up to Twilight Kin at the end of the year. So
very nice.
Right on.
And like,
very exciting. Speaking
of that growth, like growing the community and everything, I just saw the post today about the Blackjack's slow grow firefight challenge, and you guys had a big event at Mantic just a couple weeks back. And that looks awesome, and I think that is a great way to get that drive growing for games like Firefight. Especially making that pivot from Deadzone. It's like, okay, you have these models.
Yeah, totally. I think totally agree, and I think it's important that handholding in the early stages when it's so easy to not finish painting that unit, not get it on the gaming table, not have the payoff gaming experience. There's so many ways to just fall off. And I think what, Andy and the Blackjack guys, it was just brilliant. They started, let's glue them together, let's keep touching back in. It's a great way of starting that second army you've always meant to start. You've got one, but it's starting another one. It's just it's community driven, and having that payoff at the end when there's an event.
Yeah,
just lovely. And people gaming and seeing it, Andy streaming it, a whole load more people get it, and it's just a whole heap of that. And I think that's what the next 3-4 years is going to look like for Mantic. It's going to be delighting our existing customers with cool activities and getting new people to give our games a try because they really are great fun.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask if the Rebs are going to be showing up in Firefight. I know I've understood the production challenges. Obviously, there are those.
Well, yes, because what are the Rebs and who are they?
Yeah.
All I can say is nothing is getting more attention than that. We kind of don't like the old PVC, and we're now working quite hard, particularly with the Deadzone stuff, to get rid of it.
Sure.
It's nearly gone from every range. It might have even gone from every range. And there's a couple of orcs that are all right because they look quite good at it because they're chunky.
Right.
The thinner stuff, which the Rebs were, the aesthetic is beautiful, the idea is beautiful, the execution was poor. We're going to do something, I think, even more exciting than the Rebs next year for Firefight.
Okay.
I think it's going to galvanize the community and act as a recruiter that the likes of which we've never seen. Because we're gonna do a massive vehicle scrap.
Right.
We're going to make the game really work with a number of vehicles. So it's still going to be similar points levels, maybe a little bit more, but all of those extra points goes into tanks and flyers and anti-tank guns and anti-aircraft guns and squadrons of tanks supported by infantry. So your infantry become what they would do on a modern day battlefield, which is objective holders, panzer grenadiers, tank support troops, rather than, as it is at the moment, which is the main thrust of your army with a couple of tanks.
Right.
So it's going to be a kind of, I call it tanks, it's vehicles, but it's, I'm used to tanks.
Fortress are going to get a tank?
Yeah. Well, actually, we've got some plans for some vehicles too, and anti-tank guns, like those cool goblin ones that we've got, that are there shooting away. All of a sudden, 3 or 4 of those, bam, 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 trying to take tanks down. Flyers coming in, dropping bombs on it. Adding that level of slight carnage, but a lot of good fun, where it's largely tank on tank, with infantry, with anti-tank weapons trying to get in close or take the objectives. And so, quite a challenge for the RC, but I think a good fun one. What a great book. Then we could be taking plastic tanks and adding a resin gun or some off-world barrage or call-in command points, and just creating a game experience. The big advantage is painting 6 tanks is not that hard. Our tanks go together really nicely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
your tanks are amazing.
You can airbrush, you can dry brush, and you get them battle ready very quickly. You can then layer up if you want and add some stuff on. What I think that will do is everybody that's got an army that's done the slow grow or has got a Deadzone faction can just have 3 or 4 things and can be playing a really cool, big, different battle that isn't 40k, isn't Firefighter, isn't Infinity. It's tanks, vehicles at 28 mil, affordably, easily, affordable in time and money, which I think will act as a huge recruiter for people to come along and say, show me what this bloody game is. Because, Americans love a good tank. They love a bit of sci-fi. They love a big gun. What the is this? This is cool. Tell me more about it. Yeah, okay, come and join us.
Yeah, because so many...
And I think when we grow the community, then it's the time to bring back Rebs and say, right, these are the Rebs. Here's where they live. Here's 2 or 3 faction versions of them. So there's the obvious human one of them. And then there's the kind of multi-race Rebs.
Yeah.
Much easier in Deadzone. But I think if you don't have the Teratons and the Sphere, if you don't have those, it lacks a lot of character. But we need more people playing. Before we want to start releasing new armies, what we're going to do is get recruiting, get slow grow, get, now the app, play Kings of War, $2 more, you can have Armada, you can have Kings of War, you can have Deadzone and Firefight. So, $4 for one, £6 for the lot. Oh my God, right. Now I can participate for almost no money. I can play Deadzone. So I'm playing Deadzone, love it. Got the figures, let's go to Firefight. And so just on this kind of big recruitment drive, and I thought rather than doing another army for the guys we've got, let's do something for everybody who's got an army has a reason to go and buy a few more tanks.
Sure.
That freshens your army up. Next time you play Firefight, you've got 2 or 3 tank options instead of 1, or 2 or 3 vehicle options instead of 1. It's a game we've all wanted to play. Probably Apocalypse was the last time we did it, with that many tanks. So let's have a go at that. And I think it will be a great recruiter because I think it's brave and it's exciting and it's a bit crazy, which I think people love.
This is Kevin Riddle, and you're listening to Deadzone the podcast. That's right, Riddle. Not relay, not readla, not Rydell, not Riddell. Riddle. Just like it's spelled.
Now, I know I've been dominating a lot of the questions. Rick, you can throw out a couple.
That's why you're the one that leads this podcast, Brian. I will go back to the train crate, because you sent us an STL file kind of to check it out and see what they looked like. So it brings up another question for me: is that STL going to potentially be part of Mantic's business line going forward?
Yeah, I think we'll probably do something down that route. I think I can see it being a place where it supports resin. So supports plastic. So there's a few kits in our range where we've taken a plastic kit, or in some cases we've not even taken a plastic kit, and you need a rank and file trooper. In a desire to get that released, we've done it in resin. Suddenly you might have 10 bodies, 10 arms, 20 arms, 10 left arms, 10 right arms, 10 heads, depending how the model's cut or anything else. In resin, if you have no plastic kit and all that bits of resin, it's fiddly. It's difficult for us to do because there's a two-handed weapon option. So we've got 10 of all of this stuff now. So instead of it being $25, it's $50. And literally the cost of the resin for 10 arms is the same as the cost of the plastics.
Right.
And then I need 40 of them to do a horde.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly I've gone from $50 to $200 for a regiment, for a horde,
Yeah.
Oh, right. Well, that's not our business model, So wherever we're possible, we're putting every option on the sprue. But when you've got 10 figures on a sprue, it's not an option to have 10 figures with 10 hand weapons, 10 two-handed weapons, 10 ranged weapons,
right,
and make the rules good. There's too many compromises. So you have to leave the two-handed weapons options off, because that's just an elite unit. How do you want it? Well, I want it in hordes. Well, I need to buy 40 arms and 40. Okay, go. So I could see where it'd be lovely to say, hey, here's an upgrade pack for the halflings. Go buy the mega army. That gets you your basics. If you want to upgrade some of these units, or you go buy the plastic from your retail store and download the upgrade army pack and print those off in resin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, off we go. And then you can either choose to buy them in resin because you don't have a 3D printer, or you can just go and print them yourselves, or get them someone else, either us to print them or someone else to print them, because it's how do we just find a way to do some of that. So, yeah, I can see that. It might grow from there. It might be that we offer a full service, but at the moment there's just a lot chunking out.
Sure.
A lot obviously playing in another very big game. That's nothing to do with us. What we're doing is supporting our games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a role there. And I think, I've got some really cool plans. I'll come back on in the new year if I can make it work. That I think is even more exciting than what I've just talked about.
Right.
So, where we can, because, so definitely something we're looking at. It's not definite yet, but I definitely think it's something we're looking at. And we are talking about very seriously. And, the app is a precursor to it. It's not the same tech, but it's that slight pivot towards a digital offering.
Mm-hmm.
Deals with some of the logistics challenges, particularly in Europe now we're post-Brexit, where that's quite hard work. And stuff where, the price we have to charge to cast it, make the molds. I'm going to do a video about the resin process and put it up. So I did that one. Did you see that one that I did about the plastic process?
I can remember that one, yeah.
Yeah, and that was like one of the most popular videos of the year. I just painted my finger, just did it. I'm going to take people through and say, when you say, why is your resin expensive? Let me just show you what happens to make you a resin kit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the levels of process that go through from versus a plastic sprue, that once we've tooled that sprue, bang, there's 10 goblins. Bang, there's 10 goblins. Bang, there's 6 ogres. Bang. To, making a regiment of ogre braves. So being able to just go, so here's what, then we've got to make it, strip it, bag it, box it, ship it halfway around the world, give a retailer some ability to make some margin, and then sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a long, long journey. And it's perfect if you're buying your one-off model. It's your hero. It's cool. It's kick. You only need one of them. When you're doing 40, not quite so good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the model quality of the newer stuff that's been coming out, you know, speaking to that, you know, like the Marauders look fantastic. All the new leaders that have been rolling out for firefights, such as the Forge Father one and the new Enforcer one, like all those guys just look so cool. So but yeah, there's definitely the understanding and you know the difficulty with you know the manufacturing process can make that challenging to do it en masse.
Get the models right. You know, and our job is just to make sure you have lovely, lovely models to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And you know how we solve the logistic issues. I think we can all be flexible on it. As long as we've got great sculptors making great models, we can look at ways of doing that. And if we're cutting out a whole load of process and pain, we can pass that saving on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because it still comes back to the most important factor, which is getting more people playing our games. We think they're great. We think when people play them, they think they're great. So our challenge is simply to get people to play our game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we might be biased, but we think your games are pretty great too.
I don't think you're biased. I think you're sensible, reasonable, honest people who have a very good life choice.
Yeah. Who happen to run a podcast.
Yeah. Who are so enthusiastic they've started running a podcast. Yeah, and I think that the key now for the next year is more podcasts, more gamers, more events, more fun, more people, more players. Let's just grow, let's enjoy it. And, you know, we've got some great products. We've got a couple of cool licenses. They're just going to, you know, I use those as great door openers. You know, they're great ways for our fans to have another Mantic game experience that isn't as all-encompassing as a Deadzone or a Firefight or a thing. So, you know, all the way through from the Hellboy dice game through to some of the board games we've got coming out. Umbrella Academy, there's good fun, playable, light-hearted games, but that are getting us better known. They're getting us talking to more people, getting Mantic products on more shelves, allowing us to continue our kind of core mission, which is growing our hobby base.
Speaking of that, since we've got you on here, I wanted to thank you. You sent me a care package for my D&D group at the high school. They absolutely loved the scenery. They've had a couple sessions where the scenery wasn't actually part, but they still put it on the table and still built it up because they loved it. And for some of them, that was actually their first introduction to miniatures.
Brilliant. Well, great. I mean, you know, and I think that's one of the things that we are, I mean, on a serious note, I know of school teachers in the UK, big gamers, don't tell their kids about gaming because they know the families can't afford it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think, you know, our affordability drive is not, it's about time. And as we get older, we all get less time, but it's also trying to provide the products in a way that means teachers can set up clubs and say, well, look, Mams gave you the first 3 rules. And for birthdays and Christmas, these are a treat. You know, they're not super cheap, but they're certainly not going to pay some fat cats in the city their dividends this year. You know,
it's not going to break.
It's
not going to break the bank with what your products are.
Correct. It's a hobby and it's great value for money. And I think that's where I want to be positioned, is that we work hard to provide a great experience, good fun, good value for money. And you're very happy to keep doing it and recommending it and sharing it. And compared to where other money goes, it's a heck of an investment for something you keep forever. So that's kind of serious to me. It's always a joy when I can get a few sprues out to you know, our fans that start sharing it. And then they recommend it, and then, you know, they'll start buying the terrain crate stuff, and that just all goes back to you know, it's the good karma, the good hobby karma. It just goes around.
Yep.
So I'm glad they were happy, and I'm glad we've introduced a few people to miniatures, because that's the way forward. None of this role play nonsense. All about the miniatures.
Forget theater of the mind. We need to see it.
What's up, everyone? I'm Andrew.
And I'm Coach.
From FamilyOfGamers777 on YouTube.
And you are listening to Deadzone the Podcast with Rick and Brian.
Do you think they'll be upset that our audio is better than theirs?
Nah. Rick will probably just laugh it off. Told you.
With a lot of new players coming into the game space, especially in the sci-fi range, with new people coming in Deadzone and Firefight, and with the new lore coming out, new book coming out, as you mentioned, I actually happened to go back through and look at all the first edition books and read up on all like the lore that's kind of buried within those, and even the scenarios and stuff. So I was actually kind of curious, since I have you here, are there any plans to maybe even just kind of repackage some of those old either stories or scenarios as kind of like a like we had with Outbreak and Escalation, which is kind of curious because it seemed like a lot of the as far as first edition to third edition scenario wise, that there would not be many difficult changes that would have to be overcome. I just thought that'd be a great way to.
Yeah, I was going to suggest actually. Certainly, yeah. I mean, certainly the lore match. It's one of those things that it's hard. The urge is always for new. I mean, like you say, it's probably been around 7 or 8 years now from Deadzone. Was it 2016, 15? Yep. We're almost overnight sensation as we go 10 years. And you realise how much stuff's come out and how much passion's been poured in. Yeah, I mean, we're slightly conscious about, repackaging old stuff, simply because, we assume everyone's got it. But of course, that's just not true. There's so many people that are just getting into it, just getting started with it, to go and picking it up. Maybe something we'll put out digitally.
Sure.
And just say, hey, look, you're just going to need to update the rules, or we lightly update the rules and then put it all out as part of a subscription reward or something like that you could have for Mantic points. Good suggestion. I hadn't thought about it, actually, but there is quite a mine of great material there, isn't there?
It really is.
On that same vein, we know that Phaneuf has a wiki for it, where I believe that's kind of community driven and kind of populated and updated. And I had posited in the last episode to Rick, kind of at the end, it's like, how cool would it be if the Warpath universe had a similar wiki, again, like a community driven one, and it would just kind of be that question of, what would be appropriate content to have in there. Like, obviously you won't want to take stories verbatim or something like that, but some kind of synopsis of factions and
yeah, well, probably got quite a lot from the Warpath source book, which came out when Warpath Firefight and the source book came out. We purposefully put the source book separately because it covered both, and I think that was a beautiful book. I mean, I think it was absolutely,
I've read it cover to cover.
So rich, and bizarrely, it's one of the things that people say they want more lore and then never buy it.
That's fair.
So unless you force them to take it, and then when you force them to take it, it's the bit that they read, and realise that's the bit that they want. But if I just put even a King's War book out next month with just lots of lore in it, and stories, no one will buy it. They'll go, oh, that's cool, yeah. So, I mean, we could probably work with you on mining the source book and pulling a load of stuff out of that, because that is and something we could certainly, or we could put it up on our free to download PDF site.
Yeah.
So that people you could link to it and go getting it. But we'd be very happy for you to mine that kind of stuff.
Awesome. It is that thing where we regularly see that kind of in the Facebook groups and stuff like that. Is like, oh, I want to, learn more about, where can I find content for this game? And I think we've got a lot of video content. I think we got a lot of audio content these days. So it's like the written content is something where Kings of War has a great community kind of driving that with like Dash 28 and like I said, the Phaneuf wiki and what's Mike Carter's blog, Until Someone Loses an Eye or something like that.
Oh, yes, it's a great blog, isn't it?
But,
has he got his first check from YouTube yet?
What was that? Sorry.
I think he was trying to get his first $1 check from them. I think he's probably done that now.
But yeah, so like a community driven kind of collection of Warpath centric stuff I think would be really great, especially if we can expand that even just beyond lore to do things like tactics and stuff like that, because that was a great thing about Kings of War, getting that kind of big community influx. There was a whole lot of people, like Kyle and Jesse, that were used to wanted to make videos, and when you get that kind of push, and I'm hoping things like the tank porn book next year attracts a load of people who then do how to paint and how to plays and battle reports, and people that love doing that kind of stuff. And there's a whole load when we're running the sci-fi stuff earlier in the year that the Penny Arcade guys were going crazy for it, and we had some guy Angry Joe, Joe Vargas,
who was that. The problem is it's sustaining it. They get excited when we release, but then there isn't quite enough for them to fully commit, so then they just drift back to whatever else they're doing, or they're in that 3-month churn. Hey, 3 months of Firefight. Hey, 3 months of someone else's game. Hey, 3 months of Armada. Hey, 3 months of some other game. And people are kind of slightly scrolling through. And obviously for something like Firefight, it has to be one of your games. Like with Kings of War, I play this, and Kings of War. And Kings of War being your kind of go-to long-term game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of, I actually got to get going here pretty soon because I got to get stuff set up for a Firefight demo later this afternoon.
Oh, that's the best excuse for leaving the podcast. I've got to cycle out, getting late and very dark.
Yeah.
So,
for you. Brian's got to get back.
I got to get back to work. I'm on my lunch. So thank you so much, Ronnie. This has been great catching up and all the awesome things coming in Mantic. Is there any other kind of announcement you want to get out? So we're going to be releasing this just in the next couple days. So is there anything kind of pre-Christmas?
No, I think just keep watching. We've got some great announcements coming. We've got a lot of excitement. I think you've got a great heads up. We've got a new Deadzone 2-player set in February. Got a new Armada book coming out next year, which is going to have interactive scenery with it. We've just got obviously ambush sets we've talked about. The app's getting a big upgrade to encompass all the Armada rules. So, lots of different games to try. So a lot of exciting things going on. We've got some big announcements to make with regard to some licenses we've signed. More board game, those two. They're a bit more board game, a bit more even than I think more Mantic than Umbrella Academy say. But, what you're suddenly building up is we've got Hellboy, we had The Walking Dead, we might try and get that back as well, fingers crossed, in some format. We've got Umbrella Academy and then a couple of computer games just about to land, both of which are super exciting. So,
all right. Well, we'll be keeping our eyes open and our ears out. I don't know how that works, but we'll be listening.
It's something like
for all the news there.
Yeah, there we go. Keep listening.
And then definitely we'll want to have you back on in the new year to talk about
definitely set it up. And we'll come back on and we can talk. So we'll have a whole load more to talk about. So let's do that.
Awesome. Thank you again, Ronnie.
Well, thank you very much.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you.
Bye now. Have a good night, everybody. Great interview. Thanks, man.
Yeah, cool. It was great fun. Good giggle. Thank you for having me on.
And if there's anything you look back on and say, oh, I probably shouldn't have had that in the podcast, just let me know. I'll edit it out.
No, it's fine. There's nothing in there. I will not be edited.
The revolution will be televised.
Correct, exactly. That's exactly how it goes.